to use this. I don't know if everybody can hear or if you prefer me not to use this. It's okay?
No, we need.
Okay. I will not be speaking in Hebrew. I'm a South African and I can barely speak English, so you'll have to put up with my English.
Okay. You can speak Afrikaans, anyhow.
Yeah. No, basically I'm a geologist by trade, and my main focus in Africa has been, I work mostly in Africa. And for a long time I've been associated with Shefa Yamim from the days when I was sent here by De Beers, 2003. So I have a long history, and I know that most of you have also had a long history with Shefa Yamim. And what I want to do this afternoon, from my side, before I hand over to Professor Griffin, is to give you the basics of what we've been developing, and you'll probably be quite pleased to know that we are developing a deposit that in our South African terms we would say has the reasonable prospect of eventual economic extraction. That is the aim. That is most of the work that I do, is actually working on economic deposits, both in the mining environment as well as an exploration environment. So the main aim from what we've learned in Africa is to develop any projects that have some chance of developing into an economic prospect, and we will drive that. And we drive it following a code that we use in South Africa that has steps that you need to follow to be able to use on our Johannesburg Stock Exchange. So there is a code that we've introduced to Shefa Yamim in the last few years, so that the steps are recorded in the same way that we would record a project in Southern Africa. So there is at least a trail, an audit trail that you're able to follow. So there will be some big words, possibly. Excuse the jargon, things like placer, multi-commodity. But basically a placer is just a mechanical concentration of heavy minerals in nature. It's a natural concentration. Why multi-commodity? In the case here for Shefa Yamim, it's because you have more than one type of mineral species in your ancient river deposits here, in your alluvial deposits, which have the potential to possibly be economic. And so we also need to understand that exploration itself isn't a one night stand or anything like that. It's a long process. It takes time to develop, and sometimes it can be some years, sometimes it's some decades before you have success. So if you have not got stamina, it's not a good commodity, or it's not a good business to be in. I can just put it to you that way. So we follow, there's a long journey through what we call the exploration pipeline, and it starts off with some very basic work down here. We look at the historical data, we look at maps, we look at the history over here, and it doesn't cost you very much. But as you understand, as you get into what we call the field, into your target areas, so it costs you more, and you need to do more intricate or more involved type of method. And so as you move from the early exploration to what we call the advanced exploration, so your costs increase, but also your confidence increases. And that's what's important, because at the end of the day, you're trying to find a target, take a target down here, and you move it through the pipeline, and hopefully, ultimately, to a trial mining situation. And what I want to show you today is that in actual fact, although there's been a lot of negativity, particularly in the earlier years around Shefa Yamim, and I think all of you have been through that history, we're actually now sitting at a stage over here where we are in an advanced stage. So it's taken a long time, but at least we are sitting here in a reasonably confident state of what we have in the ground, and at least one deposit of Shefa Yamim. And I think one of the things to talk on is that targeting, as I said in the beginning, when you start a project, it doesn't cost you very much, but your targeting is your most important thing. And one of the things that brought De Beers here, 2003, was the fact that if you look around the world, then diamonds tend to be associated with certain parts of the world. North America, up here in Russia, Australia, several parts of Africa, South America, India, China, etc. But certainly not in Israel. So geologically, we would not come to Israel to look for diamonds. But, as we all know, they were found, and we were sent here to find out why. although there was an unconventional beginning to Sheffield, certainly from an exploration perspective and certainly from a geological perspective, it was definitely unconventional. But the work that was done close to Haifa and those big holes that were drilled in those early years, they yielded a number of mineral specimens that one would not expect to find here. And those gem and industrial minerals are really what has become known as the target mineral assemblage for Sheffield. And part of them are gem. There are gem quality mineral specimens here. There's a corundum that Professor Bill Griffin has now worked on, and we're calling that the Carmel sapphire. We have normal sapphires, conventional blue and yellow, brown sapphires, the ruby. Those they all belong to the species of corundum. And then we have moissanite, which is a rare mineral in nature and in the world. And the biggest moissanite comes from the Sheffield deposits here. And then we have diamond, which is extremely rare. So it's certainly not what we would expect. And this is a geological map of this part of the world. And all the red dots here show the effort and the extent that Sheffield have gone to in taking samples. And those samples is what they've taken from rock, from rivers, from soil, to look for these different minerals. On the other side here, we have the less sexy minerals, should we say. These are our industrial minerals. We've got corundum, we've got garnet, ilmenite, zircon and rutile. If they're found in the right quantities, they may be economic as well. But they're just not as sexy as your gems, that's for sure. What do we understand about this part of the world? Geologically, those diamonds and those gems are really unusual, and in particular the diamonds. And this created a lot of controversy in the academic community of Israel, and it certainly still has done so. But whether we like it or not, there is a form of a model, a geological model and understanding of what happens here. And essentially what we've had is we've had some volcanic eruptions over geological time, and that geological time spans several episodes in this part of the world. So it's brought volcanic material up from what we call the mantle crust interface down here, brought it up in volcanoes. And these volcanoes have effectively been eroded. They've been weathered away by time, by the rain, by the wind, but mostly by the rivers. And so the streams of Mount Carmel and various other places have eroded these volcanic rocks and taken the material from there down into the principal drainage for this part of the world. The principal drainage here is the Kishon River. It's not a very big river, it's only 77 kilometers long. It's a pretty minor river in anybody's world. But what it has done is that it has carried the products, the gem and the industrial mineral products from these volcanic rocks back down and into its valley. And from an understanding of that, we've developed a geological model for Sheffield, which basically has a number of sources, in other words, volcanic rocks that are preserved in the catchment of the Kishon River. And the Kishon then itself goes down past Yokneam, past Tel Kashish, Jalami Junction, and comes out in the Bay of Haifa. And I think we all know that. But it's something which has happened over geological time. It's not just the modern river that you see today. And what we notice is that in the middle, between Tel Kashish and Jalami Junction, the river is squeezed. It's squeezed by the Tivon Hills on the northern side, and on the southern side by Mount Carmel. And that squeeze has enabled the river to be more energetic and to be able to concentrate your heavy minerals that were coming out of the volcanic rocks, the various different types of volcanic rocks. There's just another block model to try and illustrate it a bit better. In our proximal reach, in other words, in the upper catchment area, going all the way back upstream from Yokneam, the Kishon is a wide, shallow valley. All it does is just gather its material and it transports it to the sea. And where it gets squeezed between Mount Carmel and Tivon Hills, there's a good chance for trapping heavy minerals. What's more important is that when it goes past here and it gets into the Bay of Haifa, and the sea is able to interact with the river sediments, then you actually get a better concentration of your minerals. And that's why in the early years, when Sheffield first drilled out here, in Haifa and Yokneam Junction, and those parts of the world, they found a lot of heavy minerals, including the diamonds. because they were preferentially concentrated by the sea in former times. So that's quite important, that those deposits were buried and not accessible, economically accessible from a mining perspective or prospecting perspective. So what we did is we came back up to the next best part of the world, which is there between Tel Kashish and Jalami Junction, where the deposits are only 6-8 meters down, and it's relatively accessible to conventional prospecting and exploration methods. So the mid-reach, this is what we call the mid-reach, is then has become the priority target for Sheffield. You have to put up with some geology just to believe me that it's out there. When you look at the Kishon itself today, it's a tiny little river. It's more a stream than anything else. But on the banks of the Kishon, the banks of the Kishon preserve an older course, an older, more energetic course than what we see today. And that's important because that river therefore had more power in those times to carry the heavy minerals down towards the sea. And it's in the basal gravels, in other words in the gravels of the ancient Kishon, that we find the bulk of our heavy minerals. And that's the heavy minerals that are both the industrial minerals as well as the gem quality. So if we have a look at a map and a Google Earth view, here's Yokneam is just over here, and we look down the valley, down the Kishon Valley, past Tel Kashish, Jalami Junction, all the way down to the industrial zone near Haifa, and there's the Bay of Haifa in the background. You people are all well aware of your own area, but this is the area. The Kishon Midreach is the squeeze between Mount Carmel and the Tibon Hills. And that's important. It's 4.5 kilometers long, 150 meters wide, so immediately you can see roughly what sort of area we're dealing with. And the question is what amount of gravel is sitting in that region? Because that gravel and the volume of that gravel will determine whether we have something that is economic or not economic. It's the volume of the gravel plus its mineral content, in other words, the grade of the minerals that are in there. And this is what we've been following. We got Sheffield to adopt what we call the SAMREC code, the South African Resource Code, where you develop an exploration target, and as you go through your steps, so you get more and more confidence in here, and you're able to determine whether it can be moved to an economic reserve or not. And this is what's critical in our following, and the steps that we follow there are important because they are the equivalent of an audit trail.
Do you think it will be economical?
We'll go through and we'll show you now.
Okay.
Yeah. And the whole point of this is that in our SAMREC code is that we move from an exploration target to what we call a resource if you can demonstrate that you have reasonable prospects of eventual economic extraction. So it's RPEEE is what we call it in South Africa, and that's the aim, because you develop, you sample and you work on those deposits to see how far you get, and you'll see how far we've got with Sheffield now. So there are steps that you follow in that exploration pipeline. It's a very systematic process. It's not one that you jump around. You get down, you map your deposit, you work out where your deposit is, and then because it's buried, you need to see what is underneath the ground. And so we use a drilling machine, because the drill gives you the thickness of the overburden, and it gives you the thickness of the gravel that carries the heavy minerals. And this is important, so you map and you drill, and these are the zone 1 area. We've recognized 3 different zones over here in our 4.5 kilometers. There's a possible extension to the north over here for another couple of kilometers. But essentially we've drilled what we call zone 1, the central area, and there are some drill holes and pits in zone 2 which give us some idea of the volumes that are there. So you map and you pit, and what do you use that information? There are your drill lines, your drill holes are there, they're all surveyed, so you know the position. That's important because everything gets captured here in a GIS system, in other words a spatial database where you know your position in space and in elevation. And then from there you draw your cross-sections, your geological cross-section of every one of those lines. You have your bedrock, which is the base of your old ancient river. The yellow here represents the basal gravels, which are important because those are your host of your heavy minerals. And then above that is the clay, and that is your nuisance factor. So this is the pain The pain in the butt is the clay, because you have to strip that to get down to your basal gap. If you use these cross sections, you then join them up. It's like a big jigsaw puzzle that you play, but it's in 3 dimensions, and from that you're able to work out the volumes. There's Shefa Yamim has the capability to do this. It has the software, Voxler and Surfer, that they use, and from that there are all your boreholes and your pits, and you put in the gravel and the sand lenses, the clay lenses, etc., etc. You build up a pattern of what you have in the ground. And in this particular case, the pattern that we've got to so far, we can summarize it over here. We have 3 zones in the mid-reach that we're happy with. Zone 1, which is this skinny zone over here, is what we have the most information on. We have the most bulk sampling and the most drilling in here. And what we can tell you is that in this zone here, we've drilled 137 boreholes. We've taken 12 bulk samples. So we're now getting an idea of distribution of gravel, thickness of gravel, as well as the mineral content by using the bulk sample. The bulk sample means that you wash all those tons of gravel to work out how many carats, grams, you can work in grams or carats, of your minerals are sitting in the bulk samples, and then based on geological continuity and on the drilling, you then extrapolate that up into the rest of your area. And the summary for zone 1 over here is about 500,000 tons of basal gravel. So that's the first thing. So you ask about economics. So now what we do is that we now know we've got a reasonable volume over here. We add our zone 2 volume, and we've got about 0.9 million tons. It's not finished with the drilling yet, so everything has an estimate. Zone 1 is getting closer to it. So what we do now is we take our results from the bulk sample and we put these back into our 500,000 tons, and you work out how many carats you've got. The other thing that you then do is why do you need lots of bulk samples? Because the SAMRI code requests you, if you need to move to a resource level, you need to have at least 2,000 carats of your commodity to be able to work out 2 things. One is the size frequency. In other words, is it all sand size, or has it got pebble size in it, has it got bigger size in it? They request you to use 2,000 carats, a statistically viable population, and at the same time you sell that population, you determine its value. So that from that you can then work out roughly what your economics are. So it takes some time to get to the final stage on the economics, but at least the steps are on the right pace now. So Shefa Yamim, we've got this one done, and we're busy with the bulk sample step at the moment. Okay. So where does Shefa Yamim sit then in terms of the general exploration pipeline? And this is a pretty standard pipeline. There's nothing unusual about this. It's the steps. We've done the geological model. We've done the volume model. We're pretty confident with that in zone 1. Obviously, we now need to move to zone 2 to firm that up. And we're busy with the mineralization of the grade model in zone 1 at the moment. So you sit there, you have approximately 1.4 million tons without zone 3. Now zone 3 obviously has a problem because you can see the level of infrastructure that's being developed at the moment. So there'll be a portion of zone 3 that will not be accessible. But at least in zone 1 and in zone 2, we are at this level of confidence or developing through the pipeline.
Excuse me, the 2,000 carats, per how much square meters or tons of material?
Everything will depend on what the content is, what the grade is. So if your grade is say 10 carat per 100 ton, you're obviously going to need a lot of tons. But if it's 200, then you're going to need less tons. So that's why we take the bulk samples of 500 ton studs, roughly 500 ton, and then you just add those up until you get to your 2,000 tons. 2,000 tons. Yeah. It's again very systematic. There's no magic in this. The rules are relatively clear as to what you need. You can go with less, but your confidence will be less, if I can put it to you that way.
But these 2,000 carats that you mentioned,
Yeah.
you found it on the last year, on zone 1?
No, they were busy. They were busy adding. We're already, 5 times 2. We're 100,000 now. Yeah. So it takes some time. So
וויסקי, משהו יין.
So basically, if you look down again, here's Yokneam, the new tunnel is going through here, this corner over here, and we look down the Kishon mid-reach from Tel Kashish to Jalami Junction. What is still needed to be done? Well, we need to finish off the bulk sampling and the drilling in zones 1 and 2 to make sure that we've got more than 1 million tons, which it looks like we have. And then we need to investigate the potential extension downstream from Jalami Junction down to where the link is to where Shefa Yamim drilled the early holes. Because this area has not been well explored, so that gave us a gap for adding to your resource. Because obviously, all the time, you're looking for extensions, you're looking to add to your resource where you can. This is critical. So what do you do here? In the upstream area, we're not interested from a placer concentration point of view. The downstream area, we're unfortunately not interested either because it's buried. At least we know the minerals are there. So, but what I will do now is hand over to Professor Griffin, and he will explain to you some of the most unusual minerals and findings that are coming out of the work in this part of the world.
You want air condition? Hot?
This is operating in the way I know it. To get out of it. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Then I can see it running there.
מקסימום נכון.
There we go. All right. Now, you all like me to use this? Yes. Okay. Oh, is that the okay. I'm not a South African. Okay. And I speak some kind of English. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Hard act to follow that. I'm Bill Griffin. I'm this one here, and I work at the Center of Excellence for Port Across Fluid Systems. And you may wonder what the heck that has to do with Shefa Yamim. Basically, what we do in this center, of which Sue is the director, is that we study the deep earth and the transfer of fluids within the deep earth, and that's our major form of research. And that still leaves the question of how did we wind up here? And that's an interesting story because basically we were working in Tibet. And Tibet is an interesting place because it's actually made up of several slices of the crust, which have been detached from an old continent, drifted north and accreted along all of these faults. And here's the Himalayas, and this is India. So all of this was created when India crashed into Asia. And we've been working along this part right in here, trying to figure out the origin of some very strange periddotites, which are down here. There's a whole line of them here because this is a big suture. This is a well-known situation, but there's some very strange things going on down here in some of these periddotites. This is a very nice area to work in. It's a little higher than Israel, And it has these bodies where they're mining chromite, and this is Chinese mining is very small scale and so forth, but it's very important. This is China's only chromium resource. And so we've been working, the reason we've been working there is that those periddotites contain some very strange minerals. And what?
Mantle rocks.
Mantle rocks. Did I say mantle rocks?
Periddotites.
Oh, I'm sorry, mantle rocks. Sue's going to correct my English as we go along, so that we can make, because I keep forgetting I'm not talking to geologists. Anyway, these are pieces of the deep earth, and they've been thrust up into these things. So we get a chance to look at material that's been down 300 or 400 kilometers and has come up here. And in those, we're getting these strange things, and you may recognize this one already. This is moissanite, and this is balls of native iron, and things like titanium silicide, which is a very strange alloy. And the question was, how are these possibly formed? They require really strange conditions, and we were beating our brains out on this, and then we decided we really have to work on the silicon carbide and figure out where that came from. And a Russian friend told us, well, you should get in touch with this company in Israel that is doing this. So I should explain why, that's right, I was going to explain why moissanite is so interesting to us. And the reason is that moissanite can only exist if there's very little oxygen around, right? Because if there's oxygen around, it will turn into SiO2, which is quartz or sand, and carbon dioxide. That's not very much use. So this is a little map here of what we call the oxygen fugacity. Don't worry about the terms. Just telling you as you go this way, you have less and less oxygen. And since it can only exist at very low oxygen fugacity, very little oxygen, it's very strange that we find it at all, because the crust is really up in this range here, whereas silicon carbide can only form down here. And this means you really have a serious issue. If the crust and the mantle are here, how do we create these conditions? These are conditions that should not exist on Earth, but they obviously do. So this is why we were interested in it, and as I said, when Andrei Shirayev said you should contact this company, we did, and to our surprise, we got back a very enthusiastic reception, and we have been getting into some very interesting research. And I should point out that when I said here, Chef Yemin was very supportive. I can't get any money out of them, but they do provide us with lots of entertainment and samples we need, and samples which have been gained, which have been taken in such a way that we have extraordinarily good control on everything. This is a highly professional. Sorry, I'm not trying to flatter you, but this is a very, very professional operation. And so, but the other point is, of course, they're not. Chef Yemin is not doing this simply because we are pretty and work well and things. They're hoping that this will lead also to some advances in the exploration technology. And our research center has a long history of working with the minerals exploration industry in this kind of thing, especially the diamond industry. So this, we like that, but I must say this is the company you want to work with, actually. And so what I'm going to do is just show you a bunch of stuff that we've been doing, and this is we have many lines of investigation going on using the material from Chef Yemin, and some of it does actually tell us something we didn't know before. For example, this is a plot of, don't worry about it, okay? This is a plot of the isotopic composition of silicon in the silicon carbide versus the isotopic composition of the carbon there. And spread across the top here, you see a big band of data, which is most of those come from moissanite that has been taken out of kimberlites in the Soviet Union, former Soviet Union. Okay, and they, as you can see, they sort of spread through here. And then we got this bunch of stuff down here. Well, this is mainly from Chef Yemin. this is in fact, I'm sorry, this is mainly from the Rockefort igneous complex. And there's a few samples scattered up in here, and they're mainly from the alluvial deposits in the Kishon River. And there's some overlap, obviously, because Rockefort is giving material to this deposit, and but there's obviously a population that is getting in here from an unknown source. So part of our aim is to find out what that source is, obviously, because that's contributing to the placer deposits in the Kishon River. So this is just an example of things that we are doing. I should point out that in order to get these numbers along here, we first had to develop the analytical technology to do that. Because we're analyzing these things in tiny little spots on the grains using an ion microprobe. And that hadn't been done before, so we said, okay, we'll have to do it. And so this is the result of that stuff. This is just getting written up now for publication. And the most fascinating stuff in terms of the science is what we got originally as non-chem corundum. We thought that was a pretty horrible name because it's really very attractive when you cut it. It's got funny colors and it's got the shimmer from all these little things that are in here. Now all of these little things that you're seeing there are bits of melt that have been trapped between crystals of corundum as they were growing very rapidly. And they've trapped lots of it. They've trapped the material they were growing from, basically. And that material is then telling us a great deal about how this stuff grew. And I actually have a picture here. It comes to the next one. This is what you see when you look at you shine an electron beam on these samples and they light up. And they light up, the colors are, this is a false color image, but it's pretty close to what you really see. They have got these fantastic colors and all of these fantastic structures that are telling you that these things grew as kind of skeletal crystals and full of holes, full of branching things inside, and that's where the melts are trapped. It's also telling you that these grew extremely rapidly. You can do this kind of thing with, for example, salt in a teacup. You can let it cook down and it will grow these, at the very end it will grow salt crystals that look like this. So these are sections across some of the Carmel sapphire just lit up with electrons. And this is telling us a lot about how they grew and so on. The hopper crystal, this is an example of actually one of these crystals which actually shows how they grew with this depressed faces. They're called hopper crystals for good reason. And this little thing over here, if this works, is a 3D, oh, no, sorry, that didn't work. How do we make that work? Let's see, just a moment. Let's try this. There we go, okay. This is like a CAT scan. So if you when they put your head into the machine to see if you have a brain tumor or something, it's on a micro scale. And what you're seeing is a single crystal like that just being spun around, and you're looking through it. And all of these little gray things are the pockets of melt. And in those pockets of melt, there's also metallic melts like this. And as it spins, you can sort of see square outlines here. Yes, like that one. And that's just showing you the shape of the crystals and the material trapped around them. So this is, for us, this is a bonanza because it's telling us something about what's inside there. And these melts are absolutely unique in nature as far as we know. Sorry, am I losing you? No, okay. Anyway, the point about these is that we've got several different types. For example, this one is an alloy with titanium carbide. This is corundum growing. The stuff you use in sandpaper. But it's growing out of these melts here. We've got things, boron and nitrogen, etc. And these pockets of glass which contain all sorts of strange things. This is a mineral which previously was only known from meteorites. This is a mineral that doesn't exist anywhere else in nature. Yeah, these two here have never been seen in nature before. You know, for geologists, this is absolutely amazing. But the most important thing is it's telling us something about the conditions and about what happened, and it's linking, it ultimately allows us to link this stuff with the moissanite. Now, I was saying that, let me go back one. I was saying that we want to find out the conditions, and this mineral here, called tistarite, is actually a key thing, because we know how it forms in nature, the only other example. And that example is in a very primitive meteorite, Allende, which fell in Mexico. And in this meteorite, there's things that look like this. These are grains of corundum, which sounds familiar. And there's also grains of titanium carbide, which sounds familiar. We've got those. And here is the only previously known grain of tistarite. This is titanium, it's just titanium oxide, but the point about it is that the titanium is in a different valence state that is just much more reduced than you would normally find in nature. Okay, the good thing about this is that we know how these things form. They formed in the solar nebula. They condensed from the solar nebula very early on, and that means that we know something about their position, where they formed. They formed roughly in here, and then they were blown out by the solar wind out farther out, and they condensed into these meteorites that we now see. The point is that this tells you about the atmosphere, or the kind of conditions we need to make the minerals that we're finding here in Mount Carmel. You need conditions like that. Very hot, not over hot, but 1500 degrees, something like that, and you need a hydrogen atmosphere. And how the heck do you make a hydrogen atmosphere on Earth in the mantle? Okay, that's the real problem. But we think we understand what's happening. This is one of the things that was sort of a sensation, because the last things to crystallize in this whole system turned out to be this stuff, which is hibonite. It's just a calcium oxide, calcium aluminium oxide, grows together with another one here called grossite, which is actually the type locality is down near the Dead Sea. And scattered all through it are little inclusions which happen to be native vanadium. Now that's really important, because native vanadium, if we go back to our little map of the oxygen, we have to make silicon carbide, we have to be down here. That's fine. To make Ti3+, which we need for the tistarite, we have to be down here somewhere. And this is really seriously low oxygen. And to make native vanadium, we have to be here. So we've got several indicators that we basically had solar nebula conditions underneath Mount Carmel at some time around the Cretaceous. That's kind of neat. So we have developed this is the kind of thing where you need a lot of imagination. We're taking a whole series of disrelated or unrelated, not clearly related observations, and trying to figure out how it all fits together. And we think that these things have all developed when we have basaltic magmas coming up from the mantle and hitting the crust. And that's kind of a filter, because the mantle's very dense, the melts are light so they can rise. When the melts get up to the crustal level, the crust is very light and they are now dense, so they often just stop at the crust level, crust mantle boundary. And we think maybe it stopped there, but then what we have to do to get this system going is to pump it full of methane. And methane is what you would expect to be coming from the deep mantle, because it's very reduced too. So this is not improbable. It may be not right, but at least it all fits together. And we think what happened is that as you pump methane into this melt, you go through a series of reactions, which I won't bother telling you too much about, but we actually get to one here that is quite interesting, because all of a sudden, all of the iron comes out of the melt in the form of little metal balls. And there's a poster on the wall just down at the end there that we just made for the meeting that's tomorrow. and showing how this all works. But the point is, then you get a reduction, and you go on down here, and at some point we start producing silicon carbide, moissanite. And that's the key thing, because to get to the Carmel sapphire stage, we have to get rid of all the silicon from the mill. And this is how we could do it, is by precipitating out all the silicon as moissanite. And that then leaves us with only aluminium enrichment in our mill, and we crystallize lots and lots of Carmel sapphire very rapidly. And that goes on for a little way, and then I think we have blown all the way to the surface. So we can tell something about the pressure, the temperature, everything that's going on. And this model is highly speculative, but it does at least give us a framework that everything fits into, and we can work with that. So that's some of the science we've done now. Let me just show you a couple of other things we've done, which I think are kind of interesting. Just so you get I'm just trying to give you a feel of how broadly exciting this whole project is, because, and it's also giving us information that might help figure out what's happening to that mid-reach deposit. For example, this is the oxygen isotope composition of the corundums. And there's a huge range, which we did not expect. And the range is well outside of the mantle, so there's some other fluids coming in to give us this very unusual system. And we tend to think that what this is trying to tell us is that there are two types of corundum in the system. The one being the large pale blue to medium blue sapphires and some of the rubies and so forth. And then over here we're getting very dark rubies and sapphires, and I think it's all tied together, but we really do not understand the implications of these data yet. So it's got a story, but we have to work more on that. One of the things we have done is we've tried to find out the age of a lot of these things. And we have a lot of, am I running out of time? Okay, I'll go as fast as I can. We've separated these very strange zircons from the sample. Zircon is just zirconium silicate. The main thing about zircon is that it has a little bit of uranium in it, and the uranium decays to lead over time. And you can look at the isotopic composition of the lead and tell how old that grain is. And so this zircon is the geologist's friend. We can tell all sorts of things from it. But these are the most bizarre zircons we have ever seen. And we think, for one thing, they're very misshapen, they're broken up and fractured. They're actually quite beautiful, but they are not what we expected. And then when we date them, what we found out is that an awful lot of them were formed back here. Quite a long time. Rockafet erupted about here, but all these zircons were formed from basaltic magmas that are much older. And with this, we think there's probably a great pile of these magmas down under Mount Carmel, probably near the cross-mantle boundary, and they have been intruded over this long period of time from the Permian up to the Jurassic. And these volcanics are actually known from other evidence of drill holes and so forth, but there's the evidence that is sitting down there, and then we have the eruptions here around the Cretaceous, which is things we see on Mount Carmel, and then all these peaks out here are the younger basalts, which we can date fairly well. The main point about this is that we found a couple of strange things. By the way, this is an update just very recently. We analyzed a lot more zircons from the alluvial deposits, that is from the Kishon River, and found this peak now becomes much bigger. Well, that's telling you that there is a source that is not on Mount Carmel that is also contributing to the placer. And this means that John's model of things coming from all around here is fitting in very well. There have to be a lot of other sources rather than just Mount Carmel that have contributed to this. Yeah, we can also date some of the younger basalts much more precisely now. So some people. This is just a plot of trace elements and so forth. I'll skip over that because the main thing is we think that a lot of these zircons actually are coming out of the mantle. That's, for us, that is very exciting. And finally, if you look at the individual, we've managed to get dates on some of the volcanic centers, which is an advance. But when you look at where those zircons of different ages occur in the different vents, Ward has drawn this rather neat diagram that shows that the very old zircons occur in an area like that. The next batch of somewhat younger ones occur going across here, and the youngest ones are out in the volcanic centers that are far over on the western edge. So there's what this is doing is giving you a picture of how they built up the roots of the volcanic systems over time. And the next one to come through probably couldn't get through this core here. And now we're planning to sample some of the rocks down here and see if this actually extends this way. So Mount Carmel has been very eruptive for a very long time. And I don't know how much that contributes to the genesis of all of the material that's in the Kishon River, but we're going to find out. So anyway, I'd just like to say this is one of the most exciting research projects I've done, and I've been doing it for 50 years. So this is we really like this. Thank you.
No?
Did anybody want to put an explanation?
We have some questions.
Yes, okay.
And for you too.